Today we have Earl Hammon, who's one of the lead programmers on Call of Duty. As we mentioned before, he is a Wesley friend, TU alum, somebody I lived close to when I was a student at TU in the Honors House. And he moved on to bigger and better things, as hopefully we all will. But why don't you welcome Earl Hammon.
Really great. So my name is Earl, and I'm a graduate from the University of Tulsa. I graduated in '98. I came back here for a year, from '99 to 2000, when I taught electrical engineering. So I'm very familiar with Captain Gertall. Then, in between that, I spent a year in California going to graduate school at Stanford, where I got my master's in electrical engineering, and I dropped out of the PhD program to make video games. So it's really neat the way God worked that out in my life. I was just, I've been going to graduate school because it was actually video games that got me interested in electrical engineering. When I was like 12 or 13, I found out that you could program video games yourself. I was like, wow, I want to do that. And I found that was even more fun than playing them. But it was, if you know some of these terms, you'll know how bad it was. It was an 8-bit microprocessor with one register and like 64K of RAM. If you have a phone, it's more powerful than that computer was I was programming on. So there's a high-level language called BASIC, and then there's assembly language, where you're actually programming in the machine's native language, which is not English. And they have translators to go from the words to the numbers that the machine understands. But I didn't have one of those programs, so I would actually write the numbers myself to program. And I loved it. So I decided to design microprocessors because that would be even more fun. And it turned out, when I was in my last semester of graduate school, finishing my master's, I realized, no, it's not fun. and here I was looking at 2, 3, 4 more years of graduate school for my PhD to do something that wasn't fun anymore. And it turned out that, I think through Dr. Ash and I found out that they needed a teacher, some low-level electrical engineering classes, and since I was going to have my master's, I would be qualified. And they were kind of desperate, so they let me come back and teach for a year. And because my backup plan was to teach electrical engineering at college, and that would be another reason to get a PhD. And after teaching for a year, I realized, no, I don't want to do that either. So I was kind of wondering, what in the world am I going to do with my life now? And one Friday night, I was just sitting in my apartment over in Tulsa, and I was thinking, well, I've always done game programming as a hobby. I'll just look online and see if there are any jobs I'm qualified for. And so I went to one website, and when I was there, I scrolled to the bottom of the page, didn't see anything I liked, anything, nothing. And then almost at the very bottom, there was a listing for a programmer to work with Quake 3, making video games. And they were in Tulsa. I was like, okay, I'll try this, see what happens. So I whipped up a resume over the weekend. On Monday morning, I walked into the office and asked who to talk to, and the guy in the cubicle looked really scared because there's just a stranger just coming into my office. And apparently they had strangers walk in often, and they're usually really unqualified. It's like, I love games, can I wash your toilets? And so he was a little worried, and it turns out, I had qualifications. So they invited me back that afternoon for an interview, and they liked me, so they hired me. And that was to work on a game that you may be too young to remember, but it's Medal of Honor Allied Assault on the PC. And I found out years later that it was actually the case that the position I applied for had already been hired. So it was just God really wanted me to have that job. So when Allied Assault finished, what happened is that 22 of us quit out of 27. And we formed a company called Infinity Ward. And we started to work on an expansion pack for Allied Assault for EA, Electronic Arts. And then this thing happened, that thing happened. We ended up being bought by Activision. And they wanted us to make something to compete with Medal of Honor. So we came up with Call of Duty. And we made that game in a little over a year, and it did well. We made a sequel, and it did even better. And those were all World War II games, which is why I know that the main weapons in World War II were Kar-98K for the Germans, and the M1 Garand for the Allies, Lee Enfield rifle for the British. Then, I don't know what caliber they were. And then we had made 3 World War II games, taking up about 6 years of our lives. The U.S. was involved in World War II for about 4 years. So we wanted to move on to modern times, and so we worked on Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, and that did really well. And we just Tuesday released Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, and that is selling very, very well. Some people are predicting it'll break all of the previous sales records for video games, which is kind of amazing. And so my job on that is one of the lead programmers. If you fire up the credits, you'll see my name as the 5th name down. And that's because alphabetically my name comes last, the lead programmer. So God's been really good to me there, and that was started out in Tulsa. We started Call of Duty in the Cityplex Towers next to Oral Roberts University. We had our offices on the 37th floor. And in the middle of making the first Call of Duty game, we moved to sunny California, the city of Los Angeles, which is where I live now. And so that's just a little bit about me, what I do in the game of Call of Duty. If you ever play the game and you notice when you walk around on the ground, have you ever noticed how you're walking on the ground instead of just falling through it? Well, when you don't fall through the ground, that's code I wrote to keep you from falling through the ground. When you're seeing anything, and see, oh, that has lighting, I worked on that. So it's kind of hard to explain what I do, but I do a lot of work on the graphics engine, and especially in the lighting and the tools we use to make the game efficient for the different platforms, the Xbox, the PlayStation 3, and the PC.